If I was planning spring break hypothetically, what are some factors I would consider? What are some things that I'd think of? I think the first thing I would ask is where do I want to go probably before when? I would say, maybe I'd pick 5 cities and I'd say, these are five, destinations I'd like to go on spring break. Then I would say, you know what? When is spring break for my school and time? And then I would overlay that with the 5 cities that I picked previously and see if any of them really pop for a choice. If you're in the north, for example, or a more northern area, you may say, I want to go somewhere tropical for spring break. A lot of people like to go to beaches for spring break, or at least historically they have. Um, Sometimes there's companies that do put out spring break events or have like planned spring break events. So it's like, all right, if you're in a certain city, you have other people in your area that have the same intent and they're also on spring break. So you're like, if we go through a party venue or, we're going through a set of spring break parties, we might meet new people. We might have a good time partying with other people that will meet there. Or we could also have, a group of friends that are coming into whatever city also go with that company, which means that you could have different arrangements to get to your locations, but you can have people that you know once you get there. There's been a couple trips in my lifetime where that's kind of been the plan, and it's always kind of nice, if you're traveling somewhere you haven't been before, to even meet up with somebody so that way you don't feel like quite so lonely. And, speaking of being lonely, that's kind of another question. Are you going to want to make this a group trip? I guess that's another good question to be asking yourself. Do you want to make this a group trip from the start? Because if you're doing a like road trip destination or a destination that's going to take several hours, running a carpool or running a caravan of maybe 2 vehicles or 3 vehicles with, a group of somewhere between 4 to 12 people might be an idea because now you've got a trip memory that you can share. And that's something that is a good consideration. Because the other thing, too, is if you're doing a road trip, spring break's got a finite amount of time that you're planning for. So if you're doing a designated road trip, that road trip itself's going to eat up some of the time. So planning to fly or drive or however other method you like to get there, because maybe you'd like to take a scenic train route or something. It's like, all right, that's something to consider. Obviously, another thing to think about is money. Now, I didn't make that the priority at the top of this video because right now, when I'm recording this, it's in the fall. But, if you're planning it, a year in advance, 6 months in advance, maybe even as short as about 3 months in advance, you've got a pretty good window of time to say, if this is what I want to do, this is what my budget needs to be. So if that's what my budget needs to be to do this, maybe I should start planning now and saving up for my spring break early. And that way you're not going off of whatever money you might happen to have in your pocket when spring break comes around. It's on the schedule as soon as you have your fall syllabus. So, spring break shouldn't be a surprise the week before where you're just trying to slam something together. Of course, if you're in that situation where you're just trying to slam something together, again, it's kind of like you got to look at your situation. Is this you by yourself saying, I got to slam something together? Or is it you with friends? Because obviously, if you got friends, you can pull your money. And also, they have input too that they might like to share. And sometimes, you can share minds and pull ideas from each other or improve each other's ideas. So if you're like, oh man, there's the original trip, we don't really have the ability to get down there like we want because we waited until the last minute and everything we wanted is booked. And, maybe you've got a friend that owns an RV and is like, well, my uncle's RV or my dad's RV said he'll let us use his RV. Or maybe, you just do a shorter trip. It's not really like a full dedicated spring break trip, but you're like, you know what? Camping's pretty cheap. And we'll just camp close to where we're at and we'll go out and kind of party at a campsite for a couple days. And we'll call that a spring break for us. Just something to break from the monotony of studying. Um, from my imagination or recollection, not really sure which, anywhere that's got blue water or really bright sand is probably going to be a place that people that want to go on spring break are going to target. It probably has something to do with the fact that swimwear is something that really helps show off people's personalities. Again, to summarize, my list was pretty much location, time, budget. So first, look at locations you want to go. Second, look at your time window that you have to help you narrow down maybe a certain location really pops. Look at budget. Is it realistic? Is it a budget that you can handle? Can you and several of your friends maybe pull together to make something work? Because it's like, if you start early, you've got time on your hands. And I guess budget really does dictate everything, but just because it dictates a lot of where you're going to be able to afford to go, it doesn't necessarily mean that it's the point that you start with, because you can always start high and kind of work your way back into reality. All right, I guess if you're having fun planning a spring break, or you're thinking about spring break, or maybe you're watching this right the week before spring break, or maybe you never see this at all because gets doesn't make it past the cutting room floor, but have fun, you know, enjoy spring break, enjoy life. Just because all your friends went somewhere nice on spring break doesn't mean that you have to not enjoy it. You can get as much mileage out just enjoying the room or the area that you're at. So there's always that, but don't aim there for a start. Aim a little bit higher and then kind of work your way back into reality. It's always fun to dream, at least. And I gotta say, keep on dreaming, and hopefully I'll see you in the next one.